We all have those memories of when we picked up a game, experienced it for the first time, and fell in love with it. There's just something about the feeling of nostalgia when you play a game from your childhood and your experience is just like the first time, or even better, or just flat out bad. Dark Cloud was the Legend of Zelda I never had for a couple reasons. I didn't have an SNES, and I wasn't gonna get one. However, the daycare I attended at the very unripe age of 6 did. I can't wait for my turn. What do you think you're doing? Just waiting for a turn on the game. Really? I don't think so. The games are for the boys only. Go play with the dolls. But my daddy lets me play games all the time. I don't have this one at home though. Aw. Well, you're not at home. You're here. And I say you don't. By the time I turned 8, my dad took me to GameStop to scan the shelves for a new addition to my shiny new PS2. And that's when I saw Dark Cloud just sitting there. I thought, this is the same game I wanted to play years ago but never got to. I was observant enough to remember a green hat and connect the dots. There I was thinking I had snagged Ocarina of Time. I realized that a lot of people have compared Dark Cloud to The Legend of Zelda. Some have gone as far as to say it's a ripoff of Zelda, and I was one of those kids. Sure, both are RPGs, both have perilous worlds to save and dungeons to explore, but I think the similarities stop there. I also still haven't played The Legend of Zelda, but that's a topic for another video. Dark Cloud was released on the PlayStation 2 December 14th of 2000 in Japan and in May 2001 in North America, and it's influenced the flavor I have in video games today. So let's talk about why this hidden gem left such a lasting impression. Dark Cloud opens essentially with a story inside of a story. You guys know how I love a good embedded narrative. The game follows Toan as its main character, but there's the option to change that to whatever you like. Because I'm vanilla, I'm going with it. Not gonna lie, I was a little scared watching this opening sequence as a child due to its ritualistic vibe. If you asked me to perform this now, I probably would and could. Alright, I can't believe I'm actually about to do this, but I've trained my whole freaking life for just this moment. Bam! Look at those moves. Look at the synchronization, you guys. I'm cooking. Matter of fact, I'm baking right now. Better yet, I'm boiling. I'm boiling. Here the game introduces the main antagonist, the Dark Genie, who's apparently been asleep for a very long time. Obviously he's hungry, so he eats the most meaty thing in front of him. Dang, this genie does not play. Back at Toan's home, there's a festival going on, and man, it looks like a lot of fun. Dancing, music, count me in. All of a sudden, Mr. Genie and his puppet master come in and decimate everything. My guy is doing turns, flips, tricks. Oh, he's charging this one up. Pew! Anywho, Toan was too late. What a simp. Toan was smashed under a windmill trying to save Paige. Then he meets the Fairy King, who fills him in on everything that just took place at the village, like destruction and annihilation. Toan possesses a strong will like any main character and takes on the magical power of Atlamilia. The Fairy King gives the rundown of how we're gonna start out and basically the main objective. For now, everyone and everything was captured in Atla before they were destroyed, and it's up to Toan, me, to get it all back. I love him scratching his head because same. Dude experienced a genie crash out, got smashed by a windmill, and now has to play the hero in a matter of milliseconds. I don't know why, but playing this again and seeing the Fairy King leave behind those flowers and the smile on Toan's face like he's overcome with this feeling of empowerment and hope was just a special moment for me. The first stop in Orune Village is to visit the mayor. Now, the mayor and Toan seem to be the only people who've survived this crisis. He's hopeless and asks Toan to enter the divine Beast Cave to tell Dran, the village's guardian, about what's happened. The Beast Cave is when the dungeon crawling really starts, and it's a lot of fun until it's not. Upon entering, you're met by the Fairy King again, and he explains how to fight in the dungeon, what's needed to leave the dungeon floors, and how to escape them in case of emergency. I'm loving these little illustrated diagrams because I'm definitely a visual learner, and then I get to do. I digress. He also explains weaponry, and finally the spheres of Atla that hold the fragments of the world. Toan is like surprised Pikachu. It's so funny. He's like, is that all? You're just gonna leave leave me. To start, I thought I had a pretty good amount of HP, weapon durability, and thirst, but all of that can deplete in what feels like a really short time. Throughout the caves, there are chests that contain certain objects, food, or elements that you can equip with your weapons and level them up to be powerful or the best against certain enemies. I did feel like I was going on a scavenger hunt to find all the Atlas, but opening them and getting pieces of the fragments of the world back was pretty satisfying. I've only killed like 3 enemies and I already need some repair powder. My only repair powder. Never mind, found some more, and I also found the key. I left the cave instead of progressing to the next floor because, well, I didn't have enough resources to continue on. I mean, I did, but I was trying to save as much as I possibly could because this game was quite the grind. Back at Toan's village, you learn about the diorama mechanic that enables you to engage in city building, which is such a cool touch to the game, and it adds a whole lot of character to it in my opinion. I used to love building tycoons and The Sims as a kid, so this feature really hits close to home and it's a lot of fun to get to utilize. My building skills aren't the best, but I really tried to make it look worth something. I've gone ahead and placed Mancho's house down, and as soon as you step onto the lot, there's a chest containing a useful item. These can be found on the lots throughout the game, and they respawn just about every morning. After asking the townspeople how Toan should rebuild their homes, it opens up the spaces on the diorama menu that Toan isn't aware of currently, and it allows him to actually place those items contained in the atlas he's gathered from the caves into those slots. Since I don't have all the items for Mancho's place just yet, I've got to make my way back into the caves. Before heading back in though, I need to go bug the mayor for some free resources. Unfortunately, I can't just keep asking him for food, water, and repair powder to build up my inventory. He only gives these items when Toan is completely out. Back into the caves I go. The Divine Beast Cave has 15 floors that actually welcome you with open arms, but it proceeds to punch you in the gut while also giving you a bone on the occasion. Now, the first couple of floors really aren't that bad. The monsters aren't too difficult. The maps, if you get them, are easy to read, and I like that it just sits in the corner for the player to reference rather than completely pausing the game to locate where you are and where your new destination is. Finding the Atlas is my #1 priority, and also the most satisfying because after all, that's why I'm here. When I was younger, I thought the caves were so boring, and I still do, but there are actually many things that give the caves some character, such as these freaking giant locked chests. All you have to do is successfully guess the trap and get whatever's in it. I'm so good at these. Oh look, a sword! I'm gonna deal with that later because to be honest, I am very intimidated by the weapon system in this game. Weapons in darkcloud have a lot of depth, and as someone who isn't really an avid RPG player or quite grasped the mechanics of one, it definitely felt overwhelming. Some of the systems don't entirely make sense to me, but I'm learning. Now you guys, I just don't have the spine to continue to the next floor immediately after completing the previous one. I almost always have to leave the dungeon, continue building the city because everybody has wants, and suck the mayor dry for resources before proceeding because 10 times out of 10 I have nothing. All of this becomes routine for 8 hours, but only the amount of time I spent through it all was unbearable. Man, some of these enemies are hardcore. Oh, and Toan's thirsty, of course. Hydration is mandatory. You have to take 1 sip every 5 seconds or you die. It's as simple as that. It's just another thing I have to worry about next to the plethora of everything else. I don't know, the older I get, the more this game starts to hit a little bit too close to home. But the thought of continuing to survive fuels me. On the lower level floors, there are fountains that Toan can run through to relieve his thirst. And I really appreciate that bone the game gives, especially when I'm all out of my singular resources. Well, time to head back to the village. Eventually, I had to build the odd gaffer's merchant shop and buy overpriced items solely from him with money that I didn't have and oftentimes lost because of dying in the caves. I'd have to sell everything in my inventory to make up for my losses. It really sucks because the mayor has tons of this stuff just sitting around, but he won't give me any more even if it's an emergency. I'm only on floor 6 and it's already challenging here. I am slowly becoming a victim of bullying. 1 hit and I'm down. I didn't even get to reposition this janky camera angle and he's just continuing to whack. Round 2, here we go. So also, I forgot to mention, this is a limited floor. I absolutely despise these floors. This one specifically reduces weapon ABS, also known as attack build skill, and it also keeps you limited to the use of 1 weapon. In other words, every time I use my weapon, instead of gaining weapon experience, I'm just going to lose some. It's like I genuinely have no choice but to let my hard work go down the drain depending on which weapon I enter the cave with. And in this case, it was my trusty dagger that won't disappear if it breaks. Guess that's a positive. Thank God I got the key to the next floor because whoo, I wasn't about to make it again. Over on floor 8, I'm met by Seta. He was once the king of East Terra Sarah, who made a blood pact with the Dark Genie in order to win the war declared against them. After the victory, Seta tries to return home to his love, Sophia, but turns out she died and it sent him into a rage. He regrets making the pact with the Dark Genie and now seeks the Atlamillia that Toan possesses to defeat it. Toan and him duel it out after Seta becomes possessed by the Dark Genie, but he mentions that Toan isn't strong enough yet to take on the genie. Like, duh, I know that. I've been struggling out here for hours. He then gives him a changing potion to turn this cute little kitten into a human party member. Honestly, she's still just as cute as a human. Chao teams up with Toan to help him on his adventure, and well, it's going as good as it's gonna get right now. Chao is better at defeating some enemies more so than Toan is, but I wasn't really able to upgrade her slingshot weapon as frequently as I wanted to because I was just always out of repair powder, or just used my last one on Toan's weapon. That slingshot was constantly breaking on me. It also takes like a million freaking hits with the thing to kill an enemy, thus damaging it further. The anxiety-inducing sound of the weapon damage meter going off is like an annoying alarm clock that you just want to throw up against the wall until it breaks, or being on your deathbed. It got to the point where the caves became so challenging for me that I died multiple times on the same floor and lost a lot of gold, and therefore couldn't afford to rack up on repair powder or anything else. I'd say I always had enough food, but never enough water and everything else I needed, and it took me forever to realize that in order to get the revival powder to actually work was to have it in my active item slots and not sitting in my inventory. There were multiple times where I died and was not able to revive due to this. I don't quite have the words to explain how bad I struggled on floor 13. I don't even think I was recording when this all went down, but I fought through every monster on this floor for that key up until the very last moment when I finally acquired the key, but quickly lost it as I was bombarded in a doorway by 3 skeletons who jumped me simultaneously. I didn't fight them because, surprise, my weapon was gonna break and I was out of repair powder. I was finally able to get myself together and progress through, and in the end make it to the last floor of the Divine Beast Cave to fight this furry beast of a monster, Dran. Before entering Dran's area, I of course tried to make sure every weapon was repaired and upgraded and that my inventory was full of explosives and other items needed to take him on. Defeating Dran was a whole event. The battle music was so good, but I can't seem to compliment anything else about this boss fight. I simply could not use one party member to get the job done, but I had to actively switch back and forth every 5 seconds to Toan or Chao, because if I remain as one or the other for too long, Dran will either charge bulldoze attack me or spit fire, blowing up the ground beneath, which makes it way more difficult to navigate the camera, attack him, and also make sure I don't fall and take an extreme amount of damage. I strongly disliked having to pause every time to swap my characters out. It was just really overstimulating. I thought I was doing kind of good, but alas, I failed. I got back up and I tried again for my second attempt. Never mind, that doesn't count. That one doesn't count. Third time's a charm, baby, bring it. I'm gonna be honest, part of the reason why defeating Dran took me so long was because my weapons were hot garbage. I stated earlier that I didn't quite grasp the weapon system very well, and the game kind of punishes you for that. My attacks were doing very little damage to him. I mean, his furry butt was getting more hit damage on me than me doing a charged attack. I tried all types of things with the weapons and their items I gathered over time, but ultimately, it was brutal back there trying to keep my pockets full and also buy repair powder when I needed it. It was almost impossible to keep an upgraded weapon in my inventory without having it break and disappear with all the cards possible stacked against me. However, I did defeat him on my third attempt. I was on my last leg too. Oh my god, he was about to blow up the only other part of the ground there was left. After Dran's manipulation, he tells Toan that if he wants to defeat the Dark Genie, he'll need to have the Moon People on his side who've saved the world once before. In order to find them, I had to go to the next place, which is Matataki Village. Finally, a change of scenery. Before leaving my village that I've now gotten attached to, I decided to finish building it out as much as I could, and I was pleased with how it looked. Before finding the Moon People, Toan yet again has another village to build and revive. I explored the first floor of the Wise Owl Forest, and truthfully, seeing my progress essentially at the beginning again drained me. I felt darkcloud burnout. I did complete the first floor and actually enjoyed the experience of it, new monsters, and the music of course, but I couldn't make myself continue on given how bad I struggled in just the first 8 hours. I think this game starts off relentless. But the more you push through its brutality, the more it starts to ease up, offering a sense of progression and even reward. It's just not enough to keep me wanting to go through it. I do want to know exactly how it ends though, so maybe I'll revisit it again sometime in the future when I'm ready to torture myself, or I'll just go watch a playthrough. I got and briefly played this game 17 years ago, and while it is absolutely janky in many ways, there are still things about it that I love. I may have been weirded out by darkcloud when I was younger because it was the first of its kind in my gaming library, but the nostalgia I have around it is heartwarming. The soundtrack of this game is a work of art, and I listen to it probably way more than I should. Sony Interactive Sound Team did fantastic. Overall, the game had a pretty intriguing story, some really cool ideas with the world building, diorama mechanic, characters with personality, cozy vibes, the list goes on, as well as some tough systems, punishing camera angles, and an overwhelming grind like a 9 to 5. But I did like it. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching, and feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. If you want more content like this, please be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. I hope you guys have a good one, and I will see you in the next video.